Go. All right. Hey, welcome everybody. It is 7 o'clock. Time for Sci-Fi Distill and hola to our Mexican friends who apparently watch. We get people.
Yes,
And look at the analytics. There's a lot of people
Well,
from
no,
Mexico.
maybe
So
not
I'm
Mexico.
welcoming them.
Is it Mexico? Does the thing say Mexico?
Yes, well, yeah, I can look at
On
where
the
people are watching from. So either we got a lot of people that are using VPNs that are using it through Mexico, or there's people in Mexico. Well, we had the gentleman here last week. It was this Gabriel or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. There
Who
was
was
somebody speaking
commenting. It was in
Spanish last week.
Spanish.
That's
Unfortunately,
right.
I don't read Spanish, so I
That's
couldn't respond. I
right.
felt bad, but he did post a question.
He did say
I
hello.
know I didn't
Hola,
know K because the
hola.
first was K, which
Yeah,
was
I
what?
know K, and then the rest.
Hey,
Oh,
Chris,
crap.
how are you? Christopher LaRose. Hey, you're here like the first one, Chris. That's like
You're the
usually
first
you're
one
coming
tonight,
in a little late.
Chris. And
Welcome.
Bill's
And there's
here.
Bill. Hi, how are you?
Hi. Hello,
So,
everyone.
so yeah, we're kind of we've done, a lot of Star Wars and Star Trek lately. So we're kind of getting back to some older stuff. So 1985, the year I graduated high school, in case anybody's interested.
I was 1989. I was right behind you.
Yeah, a little old. Yes, I'm old. So both these movies, Weird Science and Real Genius, came out.
Two
So we're
awesome
going to
movies.
talk about both of them. I didn't know if we had an hour on one single one, so we decided to do two together.
We
Hey,
do
Doc,
both.
how are you? Jeff, thanks for
Hi,
joining
Jeff.
us.
Jeff Rubel, go check our Facebook page. I've dubbed your design the Rubel Redux. So
Yeah, I did. I reposted that on my page.
yeah, we have a young fan proudly wearing the Rubel Redux.
I know, bringing them up right. So
yes.
Anyway, lost my train of thought. So before we get into Weird Science and Real Genius, you have news. So
I have news. I have 5 pieces of news. I do, as usual, want to fly through those 5 pieces of news. But Rizzo, I am interested to hear your opinion on a couple of them. Piece of news number 1 is kind of a little potpourri. Silo season 2 has given us some photos from the set, but no release date yet. Arcane season 2 has dropped a teaser trailer and says we can expect it in November, but we don't know when in November. Outer Range, a show we all thought was canceled. Surprise! It has season 2, and it's available now on Prime. And also, Prime has now said that it now has 1953's It Came from Outer Space. And that old movie, it's maybe not up there with like, The Day the Earth Stood Still or Forbidden Planet, but it is one of those movies that helped pave the way for sci-fi as we know it. So I don't know, you might want to go check that out.
Yep.
News number 2, Marvel news. As we all wait anxiously for Deadpool and Wolverine, Marvel has announced Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars are finally moving forward. Deadpool director Sean Levy has been offered the director's chair. He has not said yes yet. As many as 60 MCU characters could be returning, although nothing's confirmed. Robert Downey Jr. recently publicly said he is willing and open to returning as Iron Man. And it does sound like they are recasting Kang the Conqueror. Avengers 5 is kind of tentatively scheduled for May 1st, 2026, and Secret Wars is sort of tentatively scheduled for May 7, 2027. But Rizzo, I want to know what you think about this. Will Deadpool and Wolverine change the direction in the franchise to help these movies? Or do these movies have any hope of success when people not only have superhero fatigue, but they're getting sick of the multiverse too? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I have a feeling the Deadpool movie may stand on its own to some degree.
Deadpool will, but I don't think the Avengers stuff will.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that they're kind of doubling down on more Avengers stuff and not trying to take it into a little different direction. I mean, the whole, the Infinity War arc, the whole, Thanos arc was a good arc. It was a good arc, and I think it came to a good conclusion.
Yes.
Um, and I think they were just like, where do we go next? And I don't think they have a roadmap.
I don't think they do
Really
either.
don't.
And
Now, I
there's some,
do know that the Loki show has direct connection to the
yes,
Deadpool
I've
show.
heard that too. Yes. And I
So,
like,
it's
I
very
really
possible
enjoyed it.
that they will try to tie in more stuff that's in the Marvel
I
universe.
enjoyed the Loki show. The whole Deadpool and Wolverine thing, I get this funny feeling like they're waiting to see how, I don't know what they're going to do in this movie, but I think they're waiting to see how we all receive it, and then they'll decide which direction to take the franchise.
I don't know if that's really a great idea either, because I think the Deadpool movies pull in a slightly
Different,
larger demographic than some of the other movies do.
maybe.
I think Deadpool, just by the character and Ryan Reynolds, covers more people that
Yeah, maybe.
hugely into Marvel stuff, but because they like Ryan Reynolds and they find that particular type of movie
Funny.
entertaining, that they would go see that, but they might not go see some obscure or lesser known Marvel, character. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I
just
hear you.
my
I understand. Yeah. All right, let's move on. News item number 3. The Trek franchise got its institutional Peabody Monday night. All the stars were there. Alex Kurtzman accepted on behalf of the Trek franchise and was joined by Patrick Stewart, LeVar Burton, Scott Bakula. And it was great to see Scott Bakula because he doesn't usually come out for Trek stuff. Jerry Ryan, Anson Mount, Rebecca Romaine, Ethan Peck, Wilson Cruz, chose Tony Nisman, and so many others. Kurtzman spoke of Gene Roddenberry's enduring vision that our better angels will lead us across the frontiers of space with modesty, dignity, and respect, and the conviction that we're all made of the same stardust. He also paid a very special tribute to B. Joe Trimbo, who was in attendance. So that's actually kind of cool. News item number 4. All right. I'm about to go on a slightly personal rant, and Rizzo, I want your opinion on this. Star Trek, I'm about to rant. Star Trek has announced Paul Giamatti. Let me say it again. Oscar nominated, Golden Globe winning, Emmy winning, SAG Award winning, Critics' Choice winning. Paul Giamatti has been cast in Starfleet in the villain role.
It's a recurring role. It's not a regular role.
Acting powerhouse. Let me say it again. Acting powerhouse Paul Giamatti is joining Oscar-winning Holly Hunter on a show that has been described as chronicling the lives of Starfleet Academy cadets. So Teen Trek.
Yeah.
Teen Trek. Alex Kurtzman has been quoted as saying it was a delight to discover that one of the greatest actors alive is a Star Trek fan. Look, guys, here's the thing. Between Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti, no other Trek show has ever been stood up with this caliber of talent right out the gate. And they're wasting it on the freaking 90210 of Star Trek. Rant over. Rizzo,
well, I've said it before, and I'm not the only one that said it. This is the Star Trek that nobody asked for and nobody wants.
And nobody wanted.
But for some reason, Paramount is they're just really adamant about they've been talking about this Starfleet Academy show for years.
Yes.
Years and years and years. And I don't know why they're so thinking, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea, but why does they're Starfleet cadets? Why do they need a villain?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It doesn't really, that doesn't track. I mean, Giamatti's going to make a great villain no matter what.
Oh yeah,
he's great.
Love Giamatti. I love him.
And Holly Hunter is great too. But like with Carol Kane, who is also a very favorite actress,
yes,
she didn't fit in Star Trek at all. I still say that. I don't think her character was kind of shoehorned in. I didn't like the character.
They didn't use her that much, yeah.
And they didn't really use her that much. And it's like, did you just stick her in there for name recognition?
I think so.
And it's is that what you're trying to do to try to draw people in? So I'm wondering if this is just another ploy that maybe Giamatti is a real Star Trek fan and said, hey, I'd love to do some Star Trek. And they're like, well, we got this lame show.
That might be it. Maybe he's genuinely a fan and wanted to jump in and have some fun. Good for you, Paul Giamatti.
I would have rather seen.
You know what? This is 90210.
Yeah, the worst part about it. Well, we don't know. We don't know what it's going to be. It may be. We don't really know what it's going to be.
The main focus of the show is on the damn teenagers running around. It's going to be Degrassi High in space.
Well, it could be, we looked at, you talked about it and you like it, is Gen V, which again was
Oh,
kind of college
good
years, so
point.
that
Very good
really
point.
was not bad, and it was the same kind of age group. So they
Very
could, if
good
they make it a
point.
little edgy, they could make it better. So it doesn't have to be 90210, but
Yeah, that's a good point. But the fact that they're using the word villain, like Star Trek, we usually say adversary, we may say protagonist and
well,
antagonist. We just rarely use the word villain.
again,
And
that's
just
why if it's a show about the academy and things that happen at the academy, why do you have because you
a
wouldn't
villain.
necessarily, the people at Annapolis or wherever don't fight. It's like they don't have enemies other than teachers.
And
The
there's gonna
teacher
be
is,
some
and
enemy,
maybe
like an
that's what he
enemy.
is. Maybe he's the instructor that nobody wants to get.
Yeah, he's the
That's what
instructor that they all hate. He's the Severus Snape of the
yeah, he's
Starfleet.
the
Yeah,
villain.
I mean, is it going to be a villain for like the Earth? Because in that case, just let
Don't
the grown
know.
up Starfleet handle
We
it. Don't
just
send the
don't know.
cadets.
I think what's the worst part of this show though is that it's in Disco universe. It's in
Oh
the
crap!
it's in
Yes.
the disco I think it's the 900 years in the future crap. So it
Forget
makes
about
it even
that
worse.
part.
I think if they had taken it and they had put it like in the Picard,
Dean Moore.
era of what the current, Picard show was, I think we would have had it would have been better. And I think if they had taken a Picard or a TNG actor and made them the commandant of the Starfleet Academy, so we have that little whether it's Worf or Geordi or pick somebody
Yeah.
that still wants to
Yes.
do stuff. You know what I'm saying? And um, Chris was saying Dean Wormer.
The Dean
Yeah,
Warmer.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, live action lower decks. Jeff says, yeah, yeah. That would hell. I'd go with that. We had that kind of little taste of that in these old scientists.
In these old scientists. Yeah.
Yeah. So
All right.
anyway, yeah, I'm not again, and I'm not optimistic about this show only because of what we've seen from Paramount up to this point and Kurtzman. So if you like it, you like it. Great. I did hear that they're finally dropping, what is it, the Prodigy on Netflix. So
Yeah.
those that
Prodigy
can
season
get
2
that.
is going to be on Netflix. Yep.
Yeah, whether there's going to be a season 3, they didn't say, right?
No, I don't believe there will be. I mean, it would take nothing short of a miracle to have season 3.
Yes.
So,
And Bill, nobody
all right.
wants to see you in a toga.
No,
So,
no.
so
Let me, Bill, let me wrap up with the last piece of news tonight. We thought they had a deal. We thought it was a done deal. This time last week, we thought Paramount and Skydance were going to merge, but suddenly, in a stunning and unexpected reversal, Paramount Global Chair Shari Redstone walked away from an offer to merge her family's company with the David Ellison Skydance Media, ending months of tense negotiations. Redstone will now pursue a sale of National Amusements alone rather than attempting to merge Paramount with another company. And so, like sharks smelling blood in the water, National Amusements has attracted interest from others. Some former media executive named Edgar Bronfman Jr. Is backed by Bain Capital. They're offering between $2 and $2.5 billion. And Hollywood producer Stephen Paul is preparing a $3 billion offer. Buckle up and stay tuned. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't.
What's going to be interesting is I'm surprised that they even announced some of the, that they're still moving forward with some of these newer shows, because I would think that they would want to kind of be conservative on their expenditures.
You know what? That's a great point. With all this
stuff
going
that's
on,
risky. And I don't know how successful they will tell you Star Trek's probably been hugely successful on Paramount Plus. I suspect it's not as good as they might be thinking it is, but what do I know?
Probably
That's just
right.
my feeling. I have no evidence to back that up.
You're not wrong. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I'll keep you all posted. As we talk about these two movies,
Doc has a good comment there.
What do you say?
I guess he's talking about Giamatti taking a great actor of Straight Jacket. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. So why isn't that coming in clear? I don't know why that's blue like that. Let me take it out and put it back. No, I don't know why that's like that. That's weird. Huh.
All right, really blurry.
Anyway, well, you can kind of see it. I don't know why it's cut that weird blue overlay like that. It's not on my. But anyway, laser beam, vodka, lime juice, pineapple juice, and blue curacao. Can't beat that. So, there it goes. and now it's
It
clear.
looks okay. I just popped over to Facebook. It looks okay on Facebook. So
No,
looks okay. I just popped over to Facebook. So
it must have been my computer. It's clear now. So anyway, there it is. It's on the Facebook page if you guys want to look it up. But that's a pretty easy one. In fact, I think I have everything but pineapple juice. So.
There is your link, Sue, about everybody at the Peabody Awards. Good for you, Star Trek. All right, which one do you want to do?
So we'll do Weird Science first because I think we both agree that it is the inferior of the two films.
Yes, it is the inferior.
So the base, you guys know the basic plot. Two nerdy guys, they can't get girls. They decide to use their 1980s computer with a big giant 8-inch floppy disk that was really cracking me up. And they basically somehow tap a NORAD computer for extra computing power, and they design and build, and somehow there's some kind of weird, I don't know if it's like science or if it's devil worship or something, but
it was almost magic.
They create the perfect woman in Kelly LeBrock.
They create Kelly LeBrock,
and of course she ultimately helps them get over their nerdiness, and but she also has like these weird powers, like she could create things out of thin air and make things happen.
Yeah, she can.
Like magic. She's like magic.
It's a little sketchy. They kind of yada the actual, was actually.
Yeah, they never really explain it, and you really don't see her do anything. There's a few little scenes where you think she appears.
That's not the focus of the movie.
That's not the focus of the movie. There's some weird, creepy moments because these kids are like supposed to be 15, and she's showering with them naked, or they're not naked.
They're not naked. And she technically was.
So again, that's very 1980s, where it's okay for boys to be statutory raped, but not girls. You know what I'm saying? It's like this weird, like that's okay because they're boys.
It was PG-13.
It was PG-13, but the point is, like, I think that was like acceptable in 1985. That these kids were very underaged. So they never actually had sex with her, though.
Who's Bill? Oh my God, who's Gary? Gary, our son, Gary.
Yeah, he's Gary. Yeah, that was, she kind of wiped the father's memory.
The whole. There are a couple of funny gags.
This movie has some merit. I don't want to say it's like all bad. It has some merit. It's very 1980s. This is a John Hughes film, I believe.
Yes, I think this is his worst movie. Like if you said, "Hey, name some John Hughes movies," I'd be like, "Oh, Breakfast Club, of course." Yeah, right. Breakfast Club.
But it fits into that. We always talk about how studios will do. They're different studios. Like one will do some kind of movie, and another one will have something very similar all around the same time. Like
there's actually a third one.
So for this one, this is kind of like this again with Real Genius, came out the same year, kind of sciencey, nerdy thing. Nerds probably came out around this time too. The original Nerds,
5 days from each other. Weird Science came out August 2, and Real Genius came out August 7. And here's the thing: they both had about approximately $8 million budgets. And Rizzo and I both have opinions on which one's better. Weird Science pulled in 38 million. Real Genius only pulled in, I will tell you what it pulled in. It only pulled in 13 million. So America clearly thought Weird Science was the better movie.
I think it was because of Kelly LeBrock.
I think America clearly thought Kelly LeBrock was America. I incredibly disagree with you. I strongly disagree with you. No.
You don't think it was because of her?
No.
What was it
was because of her. I'm sure it was because of her.
Then why you disagree?
No, I'm saying Real Genius was the better movie.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Real Genius was the better film.
By an order of magnitude.
We're gonna stay on Weird Science
like
for now.
Laser.
Yeah, I want to stay on Weird Science for now. We'll do Real Genius in the second half. But Bill Paxton again to me was the highlight of this movie.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was funny as Chet, the basically bully older brother. But at the end, when she turns him into like the blob frog guy, was hysterical. That was the funniest part of the movie, and how he was kind of like farting and oozing stuff. I thought it was but poor Bill Paxton always kind of gets to play these crappy roles.
Yeah, he does. He was actually supposed to get into that thing. Like he was going to get in and do it himself and do the voice and work the hands and stuff. But he actually kind of didn't fit. And then when they tried to squeeze him in, he kind of got a little claustrophobic. So he just did the voice for that. the cast, here's the thing, is this thing now still has a cult following. They still make appearances as recently as last year at various conventions across the country. And I was watching a couple of them. They all speak incredibly highly of Bill Paxton. Nothing but love for Bill Paxton. And surprisingly, they all speak incredibly highly of Robert Downey Jr., who was
That's right. He was very young, during his
young.
drug
And at
using
the
era.
start of, I think, a 20-year bender. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was in, I think the last movie he did was like Less Than Zero. I think was one of the last ones he did.
Yeah.
It was around again this time, and then he just kind of fell off the map because he was wasted.
Yeah, he was trying to work. Go on his wiki and read his story. He's very open about his story. He was trying to work, and I think he was working right up till Ally McBeal, because he was on Ally McBeal, and they actually fired him from Ally McBeal for getting into trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, and so we are not all are we not all just absolutely delighted that he sobered up and got his life together? Because Iron Man, I mean, how awesome was Iron Man?
Yeah, and that was kind of, Iron Man was his turning point, no question about it. Although he did some other stuff.
Yeah, he did a few other things.
He did his role in Tropical Thunder, the one with
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller was, the movie stunk, but that and Jack Black, but his character and his portrayal of that character was, he was hysterical, and
yeah,
it's probably in bad taste because he was basically blackface for the whole, but
yeah,
it was funny.
I mean, it was controversial.
Yeah, it was controversial.
I don't know if you guys saw Oppenheimer. He was fantastic in Oppenheimer. He has had a few really good turns.
Oh no, he's a phenomenal actor.
Actually, here's the problem. He had some really good turns when he was still messed up, which tells you he really is a phenomenal actor.
No, he is really talented, and there's no question about it. And I think that comes through. I loved him. I liked him in the Sherlock Holmes. He did 2 Sherlock Holmes movies. I thought he was great. No, I know not necessarily everybody likes those films, but especially the first one I thought was pretty good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it anyway.
Back to kind of Weird Genius at large. So yes, this thing has a cult following. They do still appear at conventions.
There was a remake of it. Am I?
Well, there was a TV show, and interestingly, the TV show
ran for like 5 show, but I thought there was something more recent in the 2000s.
I don't know. They constantly speak of either a reboot or a sequel, and yet nothing ever really comes of it. So I don't think it's going to happen.
1994. This is a TV show. 1994.
Yeah, 1994 to 98 was the TV show. John Hughes wrote the script in 2 days. Elon Michael Mitchell Smith, or whatever his name is, was saying, the guy that played Wyatt, was saying
much of anything after this.
that he no, actually it was Anthony Michael Hall. Anthony Michael Hall was saying that they were working on Breakfast Club, and he would shoot all day at Breakfast Club and then go home and write 30 pages of Weird Science, which is, I mean, that's like a workaholic. That's unbelievable. You've been on shoots before. You know, you go so hard all day long.
I guess once the creative juices are flowing for it, he obviously knew what he wanted to do. So
I guess. So this was sort of vaguely, roughly based on a comic book. Is it a comic book or a magazine called Weird Science Comic? And it had an issue called Made of the Future that roughly has the same gist of a plot, where a guy creates this robot maid, and it goes from there. And so it was kind of loosely based on that. Kelly LeBrock, who you are crediting as being like the coolest thing in this movie, and yeah, you might be right. She actually was. They offered it to Demi Moore and Robin Wright. They both said no, and they gave it to an actress named Kelly Emberg, or a model named Kelly Emberg. I have a very vague memory of Kelly Emberg. She was a blonde. And I don't know what was going on, but Kelly was working on it for like 3 weeks, and then they decided to let her go. And they had to call Kelly LeBrock, where she was in France with Sting, like hanging out with Sting, and beg her to come do this thing. She's like, all right. So yeah, boom. She got on a plane. She left Paris. She landed in Chicago. They filmed the mall scene where she's going up the escalator wearing that cool jacket. I mean, just unbelievable. She jumped in at the last minute, and you cannot picture anybody else playing that role. She
No, I
totally
mean, yeah,
embodied
she did fit the role really
her.
well. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, her entrance, her grand entrance in the smoke, where she's leaning against the door frame and she goes, "What would you little maniacs like to do first?" That is iconic. Like, that's
yeah,
all seared in our brains,
yeah,
right?
no, yeah, definitely the film, and like I said, in 1985, it was very popular, and it fit the era. It doesn't hold up.
Yes.
A lot of these 80s movies just don't seem to. They don't hold up well now because a lot of them are cringy. Even
Yeah,
like,
most of
well,
them are
like
crazy.
16 Candles, which is one of my favorite movies. If you watch 16 Candles now, you're like, well, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
By today's standards, that was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
again, like these date
There's
rape
stuff
thing
in
going
this
on.
thing that you're like, there's so much in this thing that you're like, what were they thinking here? Like, and
It
actually,
was
it
a
is
different
sexist.
time. It was 40 years ago
It
almost.
was 40 years ago.
So
And
I
it's
mean,
sexist.
look at
But hi, Fez, what's kind of killing me is that they knew at the time it was sexist. Like, if you go and watch the Siskel and Ebert review of this thing, Siskel's like, this is sexist. And he's right.
oh yeah.
You know, it was a male, it absolutely was. It was 100% a male fantasy movie. But everyone's kind of glommed onto it. Everyone kind of loves it. And no one's going, hey, this is
Well, I mean, it's
questionable.
a product of its time. We always have to kind of put that, just like with any of the films that we do from long ago, it's a product of its time, like any film
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at take 40, go back 40 years from 1985 and it was 1945. I mean, that's the difference between then and
Yeah,
now.
you're
You know what
right.
I'm saying? And what were
Yeah.
films like in 1945 compared to now, or
Yeah.
compared to then, and then jump forward. So you got it's 40 years ago. So yeah, I
I
mean, a lot
forget
of these
because I
films,
was alive then.
they were adolescent fantasies. I mean, that's what they were. So no, they wouldn't hold up today in our society that's more open minded or less open minded, I guess, or depending on how you
Yeah.
want to look at it. But no, but I mean, there are some stuff that just you should not have had. It's creepy. I mean, it doesn't. As long as you take that away from the film, that that it's a product of its time, and that not to praise those aspects of it, I think it's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly.
Um,
Exactly. All right. A couple other tidbits that I have on this show. So Hughes and Hall, Anthony Michael Hall did 3 movies with John Hughes, and they had a falling out at some point during this movie, and then they didn't do any more movies together. Hughes actually wrote Ferris Bueller and Pretty in Pink for Anthony Michael Hall, and Anthony Michael Hall didn't want to do them because he was worried about that would be like 5 Hughes movies, and he thought he would be typecast, and so he turned him down. And John Hughes was really hurt, like he was really hurt, and I guess they didn't talk for a long, long time. Anthony Michael Hall and Robert Downey Jr. both went to SNL after this for one ill-fated season, and they both got fired from SNL. The boys could not stop giggling in that shower scene. Like, they just stood there and laughed and laughed. And a scene that probably should have taken about an hour ended up taking them like 3 days because the boys just kept giggling and giggling. One thing, and this is kind of a Bill Paxton thing, and this was only Bill's like second movie, Bill Paxton. He just up and went and saw the hairdresser and said, cut my, I want a really extreme haircut. So he
the
cut his
high
hair
and
like that.
tight. Yeah, he's got the high and tight military
Oh, it was
looking.
high and tight, but then the sides were like long and greased back. Like, it was just a weird haircut. And luckily Hughes liked it. And supposedly, and if any of you out there watching know where to look, please tell me, because I want to see. Supposedly, his character is not in that big party scene. The character's off hunting or something, but he wanted to be part of the fun. He wanted to come like on the set and hang out. So supposedly, he's in that party scene in disguise. I've
Oh,
never
I
been
didn't
able to
notice
find
that.
him.
Yeah. So
I've never been able to find him.
speaking of the party scene, I thought, like I said, when I rewatched this, I was kind of the characters they had come in, and I think somebody mentioned it already in the comments that came in at the biker gang were
Yes.
the main guy with the mohawk. He was the
Yes.
guy from Road Warrior. He was not the humongous guy, but he was the crazy guy.
Yeah, no, the guy with the dark.
Yeah, but they did have out in the yard, and I just noticed it for the first time as they were leaving. They had the door shot from the living room out the front door, and there's the car from the Road Warrior with the 2 bodies strapped to the front.
To the front. There were definitely some nods in this thing, and yeah, I mean, I think that's so.
I thought that was great because
so
that was
awesome.
a very popular movie right around then. It was like earlier than obviously came out. I think early '80s when Road Warrior came out, but that was a hugely popular movie, especially with teenage boys and stuff. Because it was,
Just
So
reinforcing
to
that
stick that
teenage
in there was really cool. And then there's the other guy, the bald guy who was kind of with the crazy eyes. He's been in a ton of stuff, including many Star Trek films.
A couple of Star Trek things.
Yeah.
Yes, he's very recognizable. You'll know him immediately. His name is Michael Berryman.
Yeah.
Martin is saying, my girlfriend knew Elin Mitchell Smith at the School of American Ballet. Yes, Elin Mitchell Smith has had a very interesting career arc. He did start studying ballet. He then changed over to acting, and now he is a professor of like medieval English literature or something, like something really esoteric and cool. And he describes himself as like being the nerdiest nerd that ever nerded. That ever nerded. He just sounds like a really cool guy. Like, I feel like if he came to the Star Trek set tour, we'd be like, one of us.
Yeah. So the other one thing I wanted to mention that this did have, they seem to be doing a lot around this time, was the soundtrack was Oingo Boingo, which was
the soundtrack was amazing. Danny Elfman.
Yeah. I mean, Oingo Boingo did several films around this time as far as their theme songs, and this was one of them with the Weird Science theme song. So they were very popular in the 80s as kind of a I don't know, progressive rock, I guess. I don't know really what it would be called. Punk, not punk. Techno,
I hear this
maybe.
song all the time. This song only made it to like 45 on the charts, but I hear this song all the time. Like, they played a lot of Halloween, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those songs that you'll play at Halloween or.
Yeah, and this is another one. Like I said, John Hughes wrote this thing in 2 days. Danny Elfman, he called Danny Elfman, hey, can you write me? And he wrote it in his car. He was driving, and it came in his head as he was driving home, and he was like, oh, and he got home and like wrote it all down. Like, oh my God, he wrote it in his car. And it slaps. Like, it kind of slaps, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it fits the era. That it was made, because it was, again, Boingo Boingo was a very popular 80s band of that type of music. So and again, they did other films around that same time too. So
yeah,
they were cashing their checks.
They were cashing their checks. So who do I have? So yeah, the other music was by Ira Newborn. That's not important. Yeah, August 2, 1995. The budget was $7.5 million. It grossed 38.9, so basically 40 million. And we do have Anthony Michael Hall, Kelly LeBrock, Elon Mitchell Smith, Bill Paxton, and the rest. Oh, Robert Downey Jr. Oh, and I think Robert Russler, who was Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Russler were the two, like, the antagonists,
popular guys that were kind of.
I think Robert Russler's done a few other things, but beyond that, I don't really recognize any more of these names, really. Everyone else is kind of.
No, they were just like, I think you said Bill Paxton and Robert Downey Jr. and Anthony Michael Hall are the.
Let me pull up Robert
and
Russler.
And Kelly LeBrock, who went on, did some other stuff, obviously. So
yeah, Kelly was around. She did a bunch of stuff. All
right. Well, we can.
Robert Russler did like The Outsiders and a bunch of stuff.
Move on to Real Genius. Of course, obviously, this came out at the same time. This one stars Val Kilmer, is probably the most notable person, and the quintessential bad guy of the 80s, which is what's his name there?
Bill Atherton.
Yeah, right. So
this guy, he could walk into the room and just say good morning to you, and he would sound like a prick.
Yeah, he was best known. He was best known in Ghostbusters as Dickless.
Ghostbusters, and he was in Die Hard as the journalist.
Yeah, right. He was the journalist. He always plays an asshole. He always talk about typecast. Poor William Atherton is always probably. And I've actually met the man. And I'm like, I might have told you on this show how I met him, because and it was random because.
Tell the story.
Well, when I was in my hometown, I grew up, and I was in the fire department. Well, apparently he is the nephew of the guy that was the fire chief's. Yeah, one of the fire chiefs, the current fire chief, his father died, so he had been a chief. It was like one of these family things.
Okay.
So when the father died, because he was a fireman, there was it was a big outpouring of course, all the fire people showed up, and so when you go to the wake and you're doing through the line and you're shaking people's hand and saying, I'm very sorry for your loss, and the whole 9 yards. And I come up, and he's got a full beard. Okay. And it's William Atherton, because this is his uncle, great uncle or whatever, that passed away. And so, and I shake his hand. I said, I'm sorry for your loss. He's like, oh, yeah, thank you, and everything like that. And then my buddy Richard, who's next to me, he's smacking me. He goes, "That's dickless."
This man has no
Because I
dick.
didn't recognize him right away. I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. That must have haunted him his entire. He's not dead yet. That must haunt him to this day.
Yeah, I'm sure it
This is
does.
true,
But
Your
he
Honor.
was
This man
typecast.
has
The
no
only
dick.
thing I've seen him in recently was the one that just was on Sci-Fi a few years back. Uh, the dystopian show about Earth and the aliens kind of came and it sort of partly terraformed Earth. And so what the heck's the name of it? They're in St. Louis. There's the Arch. Come on,
There's like
Ben
3 of
Dexter
them like
worked on
that.
it. Why can't Defiance?
Defiance. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Defiance. That was the last thing I've seen him in.
Has he
And he
played
kind of
something
played
good?
a jerk in that
Let me
too.
look. Oh, he was in Great Gatsby. All right. Sugarland Express, Ghostbusters, Real Genius, Die Hard. Did he play? Oh, The Pelican Brief. What did he play in The Pelican Brief?
I've never seen him in anything where the poor man played a
nice guy.
guy. He always plays. So he plays the lead professor, if you will, and scientist.
He's like the dean or something.
Yeah, so he's in charge of getting these kids, and so Val Kilmer is already in his senior year, and he gets this other nerdy kid to come in, these geniuses to work on ultimately a laser that the government or the secret government, because it's not the mainstream government, wants to use as a assassination weapon, basically.
Of course.
So, but it's full of a lot of high-end nerd stuff.
Very, very irreverent humor, which is my all-time number one favorite kind of humor.
Yeah, this is one of Val Kilmer's early films too. And
yeah, like maybe
in it. I mean, he definitely fits the role well. He kind of plays this eccentric.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and he has the classic line. This is going to give me my PG-13 rating, but when the girl, he says, "Is there anything I can do for you, or more importantly, do to you?" And she goes, "Can you hammer a 6-inch spike through a board with your penis?" And he says, "Like, not right now." And she's like, "A girl's got to have her standards." That line alone, I think, made the movie. What's that?
That was a great line. This movie is directed by Martha Coolidge. Martha or Michelle? What the hell is her name? Martha Coolidge. And she did her homework on this. Martha Coolidge. They had given her a script that was a lot more raunchy. It was a little bit more like Revenge of the Nerds or maybe Animal House. And she took it and she turned down the raunchiness and she turned up the real people like they weren't like the original script had like a stereotypes, like college stereotypes, and she made them all into real people. And that's kind of what I love about this movie is all of these characters are like real people. The other thing she did that I thought was very smart was she really researched lasers. The information, what they're saying about the lasers was accurate for 1985, probably no longer accurate. Now, actually, I can tell you.
I was going to look that up to see what we're up to in megawatt.
Yeah, I can tell you what we were up to as of 2009.
Megawatts.
Yes. But it was accurate for the day. She worked with scientists and military technicians, and she researched CIA policies. And she claims that she has gotten letters from real students who say, this kind of scenario has happened to me where I was working on something and they came and took it for other purposes. They did use real lasers for filming. They discovered lasers are not really seen well by the camera, so they had to use a little smoke to sort of make that beam show up a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, and here's the cool thing. Laszlo Holyfield, based on a real life Caltech student that lived in a secret lair underneath one of the buildings. I think they mean in a sub basement of one of the buildings.
Yeah.
Mythbusters tackled this movie because we are going to talk about the big finale. Yep. Yeah. Mythbusters tackled it. They proved that, yes, you can pop popcorn by laser, but no, it will not blow up a house because when it expands and it runs out of room, it just stays there and the stuff in the bottom just chars. So it doesn't really.
Yeah, and then it would just compress because popcorn doesn't have enough.
Yeah, popcorn doesn't have
it. Yeah, it would just, it wouldn't.
Mythbusters, as of 2009, the episode debuted in June of 2009. Mythbusters also specifically stated that a 5 megawatt laser still did not exist in 2009, even in military applications, and the most powerful military laser that they knew of was 100 kilowatts. So I don't know what we have now in 2024. We may have changed that, but I don't know.
I
The
don't know.
solid xenon halogen laser proposed and built by Chris in the film was based on a theory and just a theory of the time. We don't know if that's real yet either.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief in this film.
Mm.
I mean,
Mm.
you know, but you said the Laszlo character was based on a real person.
Yes.
So there was a Caltech student, Stephen Klein, and a bunch that used a strategy to win the McDonald's sweepstakes. There was like several of them, and
and printed them all out.
So they won a station wagon, like $3,000 in cash, like $1,500 in food certificates. So they kind of did what he did, where they just kept.
And he calculated, I'm gonna win 37 point something percent. And he did. Like he said, I'm gonna win 38 or 30% or 38%. And he did. He won like 37 point something percent. Like he was spot on. It was so funny. Before we get to the big popcorn scene, which I do want to talk about, what else do I have? Reports have surfaced as recently as September 2014 that a potential TV series was in the works, but just like Weird Science, nothing has ever come of it. Occidental and Paloma were used as which are both universities out in LA, were used for Pacific Tech, and Pacific Tech was meant to be Cal Tech. John Cusack was up for the role that Val Kilmer got, but he did Better Off Dead instead. Let's see. They did have an actual child prodigy who graduated college at 14 in the role that Gabe Jarrett took, in the role of what's his name? Mitch. No, not Mitch. Is it Mitch? Yeah, Mitch. But he actually couldn't act, so they had to get rid of him and get an actual actor in there. There is a deleted balloon scene that you can see on DVD. Oh, montages, because you were talking about the montages. This movie is so 80s because it is chock. There's at least 3 different montages that I can think of. Where
this one has at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So it definitely fits the bill of the 1980s movie, because there's a couple where they're building a laser, and then they're doing when they're doing the loading the popcorn stuff into the house.
And there's the studying, like when they're studying, and then there's the one kid that has the freak out.
Yeah, that's basically.
Actually, and it's a montage, like every morning when Gabe goes to that one math class, and there's more and more recorders.
Right, until finally even the teacher just puts a recording up.
Everyone gives up. Okay,
I went to college in the late 80s. That never happened in my experience, where people
me either.
leave a recorder and walk away. I think the teacher, at least my professors, would have took it and thrown it in the trash.
Probably, yep. What else do I have? I said the deleted balloons, and I said the montages. The B1 scenes were done in miniature. Jordan, the character of Jordan, who's the hyperactive, like I kind of adore her. She inspired a little character named Gadget on Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. Having never watched Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, I don't
know the character. Yeah,
Gadget is
she was like their mechanic that would build all kinds of
gadgets. Like really smart and hyper, and I never sleep.
Yeah.
And I don't sleep, so you can come see me because I don't sleep.
Yeah.
Yes, that is Dean Devlin as an extra in the pool party scene. Dean Devlin would go on to do Independence Day and a few other things. There are so many little things that you pick up like on repeated viewings that you don't notice the first time around. Just stuff going on, and because it's like it's more. I think it's more wholesome than Weird Science. Like I really do, and I feel like there's
not a lot of. I mean, there's some stuff, but there's nothing overtly other than the one line.
Yeah, other than
there isn't anything. I mean, there's the one older woman who's apparently working her way through geniuses.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Especially since, again, 15 years old, she was like, "You're finally old enough," and I'm like,
"Yeah, I've waited for what?
No,
for this?
No, he's not. He's only 15." So, and then the one thing I wanted to mention on characters is the guy that plays Kent. He's another one that always ends up getting stuck, kind of playing.
I'm watching you, Kent.
Yeah.
That's Robert Prescott. Yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff. Oh, and the guy that plays Laszlo, he's been in a bunch of stuff. You'd recognize. You know who he played? He played Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, but the guy that played Ken, he was also in a movie, one of Tom Hanks's first films, called Bachelor Party.
Did you know?
Connie Katane, and that movie is actually really funny. Again, not not very politically correct, but he plays the exact same character where they prank him and of course make him feel like a fool. And so again, he's always a character that kind of always gets
It kind of gets the short and the
the
stick.
same
Kent
kind of.
Schmidstone, is that you, God?
Yeah,
Kent, stop touching yourself, Kent.
it really is God.
It really is God. Oh, that it was like the prank where they put his car in his dorm room. Like they never really show how they did
And that
it.
car is so typical because it's like that's I believe a Peugeot, which is kind of a classic car now, but it's like nothing you would normally see in the United States. And it was even an older car, I think, even in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was just funny that he would be driving that weird French car.
Yeah, he's driving this little French car or whatever.
Like,
where did he get that? Or like the chemical ice that Ick made. Like smart people on ice, and they're sitting around, and then Jordan comes out. Oh, let me test I love that. I desperately wanted college to be like that.
Everything she always had, like whether it was the sled, and then she had the rebreather in the pool. Yeah. Apparently they had to go to like a VA to get that auditorium because they needed an auditorium because you notice what they did was they used the orchestra pit to make the pit.
I noticed that too.
So
and the reason why.
Yeah. So that was a real place. That was a real theater that there wasn't.
It was an auditorium or a theater. You're absolutely right. And I noticed that because so many people were like, oh yeah, they turned the lecture hall into the pool party. I was like, no, it was not a lecture hall, guys. It was not a lecture hall. It was an auditorium.
It was an auditorium. It was like a theater.
Nobody seemed to pick up on that. Apparently all these people who review these movies did not go to college.
I did. I got it too originally because at first I was like, well, how? Because originally I looked at it and I'm like, okay, they're sliding into a pool. How did they do the pool? And I'm like, oh, that's the orchestra pit.
It's the pit. Yeah. To promote this film, this is possibly the world's first internet promoted film, maybe for 1985. To promote the film, the studio held what it billed as the world's first computer press conference, where they were answering journalist questions that were submitted via computer terminals and relayed over CompuServe. Do you guys remember CompuServe?
I have CompuServe, yeah. That was like the online thing. It was like eventually then Prodigy came out, not Prodigy, the TV show, Prodigy, the online service. That was a dial-up service. It was before the internet. It was a dial-up service that you would basically log into their server, and there were stupid things. You had chat rooms that they had, or message boards, and then other, things, games, and things you could do. Email, that was like the first place you would get email.
Yes, you have mail.
That was AOL. Yeah.
That was AOL.
And AOL eventually became AOL. Yeah.
All right. So let's, at 7:47, let's do it. Let's talk about that big finale. Which is, I mean, they're talking about a deadly weapon, and they've decided to put it to, I thought, very
good. This is well, I want to roll back a little bit. When they first fire the laser in the lab and they realize that they've discovered this 6 megawatt laser, and it goes through the block and through the wall and then through the outside of the quad, and it blows through.
Where does it go?
And I'm thinking to myself, you're lucky nobody was standing they didn't even concern themselves with the fact that somebody might have been in the wrong place at the wrong time and got vaporized.
I mean, it was roughly angled up, so
it obviously kept going up, because by the time it got to downtown where it went to the burger place, it had gone through a billboard that's like on top of the building.
Yeah. But I had the exact same concern. I was like, oh my God, they're A, lucky they didn't kill anybody. And B, don't lasers go forever? Like if you shoot a laser into space, doesn't it go forever?
It's going to get weaker and weaker though. It's not going to remain the same. As it goes, it dissipates.
Okay. I thought it just went forever.
So like the laser, like they say, like they do this on the Big Bang Theory, and it's true though. They had like a certain, so many watt laser that they could shoot at the moon, and here it would burn a hole through whatever, but on the moon, it just makes like a foot spot of light.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Because it dissipates and widens as it goes. So
I mean, we should be shooting lasers at the moon all the time. That would be fun.
Well, you can. All right, because the Apollo. That's how we know that there was that actually there's people that had been there, because they left mirrors on the moon. That if you have the right equipment, you can hit it with the laser and get it to bounce back.
And go kill someone over.
You just get it. It'll just go out and back, and it'll bounce back, and you can read that light coming back. The laser beam, and then it's because you know how far it is, and so they do it's all math, science.
You should do that as an experiment.
I'm sure Doc's still on. He knows what I'm talking about.
I would love to do that. That sounds very, very cool. All right.
Well, you need special equipment. It's not like you just go to Walmart and buy yourself a
that case, never mind. Never mind. That's no
But
use to me
it
then.
is doable. Somebody, if they put their minds to it, you can do it. It's not like you have to be NASA to do this.
Interesting.
So if you know what you're doing.
Interesting.
Anyway.
All right. So the final scene is
So
the
then, yeah.
big
Well,
popcorn scene.
it's important to think that part of the reason is they did do a little foreshadowing with it because Kilmer
Yes.
shows up with a bag of popcorn and at
Yes.
Atherton's house, and he's like, I hate popcorn, leave it out here. And of course, he just throws it on the ground. So he's like, I can't stand the smell of popcorn. So that's
Yeah.
why they're gonna. So then they
There's our-
realize that
there's
he
our
also
Chekhov's
had
gun.
been, but the other part of the plot is it's important is he had been skimming money off of the project to
Yes, to
rebuild
pay
his
for the
house, to have all this house renovated and the lawn redone. So he had
Yeah.
this beautiful house, which I always thought looked weird where it was. It's like in this middle of it's like this neighborhood, but it's like nothing around it. There's like
this is somebody that goes around and visits movie sites and went to this neighborhood. It looks completely different because all the trees have
I'm
grown
sure,
up
yeah.
now. So it would actually look fine now because it would be surrounded by trees. But back then, it literally looked like it was in the middle of the desert. Like
Yeah,
it looked like it was
like a sore thumb. So anyway, so they decided that they're going to get revenge on him by wrecking his house and popping popcorn. So they make basically a giant Jiffy Pop in the middle of his living room,
yes,
and then set the coordinates
And
of the
goes
laser
in
to hit the to not hit the target it was supposed to. It hits the Jiffy Pop, and of course it pops so much popcorn that it blows the roof off.
that it
And
blows
the
the house
windows.
apart.
And you know what cracks me up? All the kids remember at the end, the very end, when he pulls up,
Yeah,
and he's like, of course, he's holding his mouth because he can't stand the smell of
Yeah.
popcorn. And the kids are running away with wagons full of
with wagons full
popcorn.
of popcorn.
I'm like, there's glass in there because the windows broke out.
Probably.
Like, why would you eat that?
Well, probably. It was real popcorn, but surprise, surprise, popcorn's flammable. And so they had to spray it all down with fire retardant. So no one could actually really eat it. And when between shots, they had to like basically stand around and cover it to make sure the local birds didn't
They were afraid the birds were going to eat it and die.
It was 140 tons of popcorn valued at about $100,000. They had to pop it on set. I think they did have some of it brought pre-pop, but they had to pop it on set. I can drop a link to a little video that talks about this if you guys want to hear about this yourselves. But basically, they built like, I don't know, 8 or 10 giant hot air. They were like 8-foot tall giant hot air poppers. And they had like conveyor belts and hydraulic and air blowers to put and vacuum hoses to like push this popcorn and make it look like it's pouring out the windows and coming out through this house. And they use like an auger, so they would use an auger to bring all the kernels into these hot air poppers, blow it, and then blow it and blow it and blow it. Supposedly, they popped popcorn continuously for 3 months in order to have enough popcorn.
That's some stale popcorn.
That's some stale popcorn. Plus, it was all sprayed down with fire retardant.
Well, it's like the stuff you get at the movies.
No one should have been eating that popcorn.
You guys know that the movie popcorn you get is not popped like there it's like they have giant bags of it in somewhere stored.
Yeah, it's in the bag.
Bring
Well,
it down.
It's like some theaters you can go and see it being popped.
Yeah, but most of the time it just comes in giant, massive bags.
And you ask for extra butter, and they like pump on that. It's like it's not butter. It's more like
oh, it's not. It's chemicals.
Yeah, it's chemicals. It's like ghee. It's more like ghee. Really.
Thanks for joining us, Bill. I don't know why you're referencing Star Trek V, but okay.
That's Bill Lutz. That's Mouse.
I know. I just said.
Oh, do you know Bill?
Yeah, I've met Bill.
Okay. So yeah, it's an oil. It's like ghee. It's a clarified.
Yeah, it's not even like clarified butter. It's, I don't know. They always say would you want some butter flavoring?
Yeah, butter flavor.
Don't say butter because
it's oil.
You call it butter.
So, did they cook the Jiffy Pop over the huge set lights like we used to at Star Trek New Voyages? No, they didn't. They used hot air poppers, and if they had tried to do it that way, some of that popcorn probably could have caught on fire.
Yeah, no, that's just something we used to do as a goof with the 5K lights.
Yeah,
you could probably do it on 1K. It's hot enough.
So yeah, I mean, of these two movies, as I was saying at the top of the show, the American public chose Weird Science as it made $38 million, and this thing only made $13 million. But in my heart of hearts, Real Genius Forever. I love this.
Yeah,
movie.
I think it was a better movie overall. I think it's better written. I think the story's better. It's not as cringy. It has a few moments, but overall, I think it holds up better over time.
Holds up
Other than, I
way
mean, some
better.
of the science and the stuff that, obviously is very 80s and they didn't have
Yeah,
technology.
the science is outdated now, but
Yeah. But
but kids, the hijinks on a college campus, not outdated at all. That's
not
still going
really,
on.
not really. I mean, I don't, we weren't that crazy when I was in school, but,
I think they get a little crazy because I mean MIT is here in Boston, and sometimes you hear about them doing stuff
well,
and
I
they're
mean, I think it's more of the frat houses. I think that's
yeah,
probably
maybe.
like more like Animal House
Maybe.
type stuff than, I don't think it's necessarily happening in the science labs, but I don't know.
No,
Maybe they're getting crazy. Maybe that's something. So,
maybe it
um,
is.
but I remember I'm pretty sure I saw both of these because in the mid 80s, I was seeing everything in the theater. Like that's what you did like every weekend.
Really? See, I pretty much all these movies I saw at home. I was not a big movie goer.
Oh, we used to go like it was something to do. You get
Yes.
your friends, you go to
Yeah.
movies, go to movies, go to
Yeah.
movies, go to movies every week.
But
So
that again, like for a lot of these movies, just I'm only just a couple years younger, but it's just enough that like it wasn't
yeah,
quite
I
old
didn't.
enough to
I
go,
as an older person,
by myself.
especially after I got married in the 90s, and it's like, yeah, we'd still go to the movies, but it was
But
more
yeah,
selective.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It's a lot.
And then now it's like I'm like with you. I don't go see anything.
I prefer to watch at home. Although, if Deadpool, when and
Yeah,
if
Deadpool, I
Deadpool,
think we need to go see
I
down
might
in
see
the
that one on the big
IMAX or
screen.
something. So that might be a one worth going. That might be the first time since COVID that I go back at a theater for that one because it does look so good.
What else do I have in here for tidbits? Consultant Martin Gunderson, who played the math professor, was later cited in an academic publication that detailed the scientific basis behind the laser, specifically the xenon halogen laser. So yeah, I mean, it's cool, man. It's cool. But I didn't care one way or the other about the laser. I just wanted hijinks. I just wanted to go to college and have hijinks.
I don't know if I had hijinks. I mean, we certainly had our fun, but
No hijinks.
nothing to that degree. Certainly, we weren't destructive.
Yeah,
We had a few parties that were kind of wild. That's
yeah,
for
that'll
sure.
happen.
Yeah.
That happened. So yeah, Val Kilmer, Gabrielle Jarrett, who hasn't done much, Michelle Mayrick, she did a few things. William Atherton, Robert Prescott, we did talk about him. John Grease is Laszlo, and we did talk
Yeah.
about him. He's very recognizable, like you'll know his face immediately, and he's been in a bunch of stuff. Ed Lauder, Louis Gambalvo, Patty Darbinville. Now she is somebody. She played the one who's
She's
like,
somebody.
she's somebody. I just don't know who.
Yeah, Ed
It's very
Lauder is another guy. He always plays like a government person. It's always a funny. He's like because he was like in trying to think of the other movie. He was in The Rocketeer. He was again a G man. He always plays the same kind of character too.
yeah.
So
Yeah, the bald dude, that one bald dude.
yeah, he was the guy that was he was not the guy that was directly talking to Bill Atherton's character, but the guy that was telling them, I
Yeah,
need this by mid-May. I
by
need this.
this day.
Yeah, I need it. And you're
Yeah,
going to do it. That's
you're right. He's another one with a recognizable face. He's been in a
yeah,
bunch of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Bo Billingsley, and then Dean Devlin. I already mentioned him, and then Stacy Peralta, the shuttle pilot, the guy who was flying right at the very beginning of the
Yeah.
movie. He's actually famous, or he was at the time in the 80s, a famous skateboarder.
Okay.
Would we go to the movies for a new Star
Weird
Trek
and
movie?
random.
It depends, Bill. It depends. Oh, Crystal Roche was hitting the midnight movies. Nice.
You go to the movie for Star Trek movie. Yeah, last one I did see.
Not a JJ Trek.
I did see the last JJ Trek in the theater. I actually took
Did
my
you really?
daughter. She wanted to see it, so we went and saw. Whatever the hell it was called. I don't remember now.
Not Beyond Into Darkness. No.
Yeah, Beyond.
The one with J-Lo. J-Lo.
Jayla, yeah, that was Star Trek Beyond. That was the last one in the theater. I did see that one in
Right.
the theater. I saw the first 2009. I did not see. Did I see? Yeah, maybe I did. I must have seen all three of them in the theater, even though they were slightly disappointing. So, anywho. All right, well, we are at the top of the hour, so we will wrap it up. Obviously, if you haven't seen this movie, I think Real Genius is the better, but
Absolutely agree.
you guys tell us, feel free, which one you think is better. What does Roy got going on?
I don't know.
Oh no.
I don't know. He hasn't said what's happening this weekend for him, and I failed to check in with Phil. So
Okay.
I have nothing to promote, and I don't know if we're sure what we're doing next week. So it's a
No, I don't know what
mystery.
we're doing. If you guys have suggestions, always certainly let us
Send
know.
your
We come up with
suggestions.
something.
Let us be
I don't know. Do
surprised.
you like us
Let
to
you be
do
surprised.
movies
Oh, hey,
more?
John.
TV shows are kind of hard to do because they're hard to cover a whole series of shows. Unless,
Yeah.
unless it's something more like these new ones that are like 8 episodes, and then you can do a season because it's more concise. So, um, but yeah, I don't know. I always figure it out usually on Sunday night or Monday morning of what we're gonna do Wednesday. So
Whatever works for you.
whatever works is
Although I like a little
saying
heads up. I
Dune
like to
2.
know what we're doing, so
I
I
have
can
to
have
watch
time.
Dune 2 before I actually cover Dune 2.
I've seen Dune 2. I don't think it was as good as Dune 1.
I don't think any Dune is as good as any Dune, but
I
I'm not
I
a Dune
like the
fan.
Kyle McLaughlin
I
Dune
didn't
better.
think that one was that bad because it explained a lot, whereas these don't. But that's a thing.
I
We've
can't believe
done
I
the
just said that.
thing,
I like
John.
the 80s Dune better.
Yeah, John, we did the thing. Well, I'm just reading comments. Chris is saying, "Why not do best midnight movies?"
What was
I don't know
playing?
what
See
goes
what
with
plays at
Beyond
midnight.
Rocky Horror. What's the next?
Yeah,
What's the
we've
other?
already done Rocky Horror, so I'm
And we
not
did
sure what
Rocky
else we can
Horror.
do.
We did that with Roy, didn't we? Or
We
was
did with
that
Kent.
yeah.
Touch me.
Did we do Lady Hawk?
We have not done Lady Hawk. We have not done Willow. We have not done Krull. We've not done Legend. We have not done Labyrinth.
Yeah, those are
And
more
many of those
80s
could be
stuff.
lumped together too.
I'd have to rewatch Lady Hawk. I have no memory
Yeah,
of
it's been
that.
we've done Princess
We
Bride.
did
It's
Princess
been a hot
Bride. Yeah,
minute
you got
since
to go
I've done
back,
it.
John. Look at our old stuff. We've been doing
John,
this
we've
for
been
like
doing this for 4 years, so you got to get
4 years.
caught up.
We got a lot of movies we did.
We got 4 years
We're
of
gonna
crap.
start recycling them and see if anybody notices. We'll just air the old one. I told you. I think I watched one of our first ones. I was listening to it. And I'm like, God, we were terrible. I mean, we're still bad, but
Oh, we're still
we're
awful.
still currently terrible. But they were
We're
really
awful,
bad.
but we're having fun, and we love all of you out there. So you know what? That's all that
Thank
counts.
you, and I appreciate it. There's still people watching us after all these
We
years.
can't believe you guys tune in every week. It's
I
kind of
know. I'm really quite impressed with that.
and whoever the people are from Mexico who listen to us on the podcast.
I know. It's like it's one of the highest listening zones from the Spotify, because you guys, though that don't know, you can listen to us as you drive.
Yeah.
If you want to make sure you have all your driver aids turned on so that when you fall asleep listening to us, you don't drive
And the
off
car
the
drives
road.
itself.
So the car will save your butt. So yeah. So all right. Well, we always figure out, because I just can't never think of what I want to do. And we'll come up with something as usual. But like I love suggestions, because I want to do what you guys want us to do, not necessarily what I want to do all the time.
Yes. Yes. Well, they just gave us a bunch. So
yeah. All right. On that note, I will say good night, and we'll always live long and prosper, and may the force be with you always.